Thanks everyone. Today we are to start with the numerical problems in departmental accounting. As discussed in the previous video, your problems in departmental accounting can be categorized in three. Number one is a simple problem which involves just the apportionment of the common expenses. That is, you are given information of all the departments, but some expenses are in common, so you are to distribute them among these departments and then compile their trading and P&L account to find out their profits. So this is also referred as a basic problem because this will always be there in any question, that you have some common expenses and you are to distribute them. Then second one is problem involving calculation of separate purchases and then adjustments of stock reserve, etc. So today we are starting with the first type of problem. We will be discussing direct, indirect problems along with the proper preparation of accounts or correction of incorrect statements. So our first case is apportionment of common expenses. Now you see, in case of departments, you are given their common expenses. So how can you distribute these common expenses among the different departments? Like, just take the case of Big Bazaar. Okay. Now consider as an owner, if you are maintaining this departmental store, then what type of expenses are there? Just you can pause the video and you can make a list of all the expenses which you think that will be there in the in maintaining, operating this business. So let us continue. So you might be having some purchases of the stocks, because for all the departments you are buying the goods, okay, for sale purposes, which will involve some direct expenses alongside. Like when you buy the goods, you need to bring them into your stores. Then you have some expenses, like if the building is rented, okay, so you will be paying rent, you might be paying some kind of municipal taxes, etc. If it is not rented, then you might be having depreciation, I can say. Then you will be getting your building insured also, so you might be paying insurance charges. Then you have staff employed there. Then you have staff expenses, like their wages or their salaries, their staff welfare expenses, like you might be providing them free lunch in the canteen, you might be providing tea, coffee, you might be having expenses like their provident fund, etc. Right? So these are some of the expenses relating to staff, canteen expenses, provident fund, insurance of staff, etc. Then you have expenses like freight inward. Whenever you buy goods, you might be buying goods in lots, etc., and their freight is to be paid. You have godown charges. You are maintaining godown charges are there. To the salesman, you are giving him commission or salary. You might be having bad debts, so you might be interested in creating a provision for bad debts. You have depreciation of machines or equipments, like you might be saying in Big Bazaar, which machine is there? You have a teller there, and there are some machine expenses including depreciation. Okay, you have insurance of machines. Then you have the lighting charges. You have lights, air conditioner being working there. Then you have some power charges in case you have, say, you are talking about a factory, not in Big Bazaar but otherwise. So there is a complete list of expenses, and some of these might be common. For the time being, we can say that purchases are not common, purchases are individual, but all expenses, these expenses might be common. So the Big Bazaar is spending rent charges, staff welfare charges, freight, godown rent for all the departments together. So if you are to prepare individual departments trading and profit and loss account to find out the departmental profit, how will you distribute godown charges, say? How will you apportion salesman's commission? Bad debts. So Now in order to understand the basis for distribution, because you are to distribute these expenses, then only you can compile their trading and P&L account. See, when I say you are to prepare their final account, then a visual of a trading and P&L account should come up before you, that you are to prepare trading and P&L account for department A, B, C, D, either separately or in columnar form that we had discussed in theory. So you need to know their expenses separately. So how to distribute these common expenses? Now in order to understand distribution or apportionment of common expenses, we need to go deep into the nature of expense. Once you understand the nature of expense, then you can determine the basis of distribution also. Like if I say go down charges. Okay, now why are we having go down? Why do you need go down? Just think of it. You need go down to store the inventories, right? So you are having inventories of A, B, C, D, all departments. It means go down charges are there because of inventories. So don't you think that inventories or average inventory will be a suitable basis for distributing go down charges? Similarly, in case you have bad debts, right? Now why do we have bad debts? Because we have credit sales. So bad debts are there because of credit sales. So credit sales will be a suitable base to distribute bad debts. Now you have rent, rates, depreciation, insurance of building. So what will be the basis? Now in building, what is happening? Each department is occupying some area. So area will be a suitable base. So when we are to distribute the expenses, in your books you might be finding a complete list of bases given along with the expenses, that if expenses is this, use this as a base. Of course you can learn the table, complete table can be learned, but why not understand the reasoning? So in order to distribute any expense, or we call apportionment of the expenses, we just need to see why this expense is arising, what is the base of that expense, and that will form the base of distribution of expenses, as we have seen in your area or sales or inventory. Now when you say lighting, so why do we get the lighting bill, or why the bill will increase or decrease? Your bill will increase depending upon how many light points you are having. So light point can be a criteria. If you cannot take account of this, then area. Obviously, if bigger the area, more will be the light points and more will be the bill. Power you use for machines. So you can either take machine hours if you are given, or you can take the individual or value of machines being occupied by each of the departments. So these are some of the bases. Now before we move further to the table of apportionment, just remember that we are using the term apportionment. In the books you might be having a term called allocation. Although a layman will be using the two terms invariably, there is no distinction for normal person, but as a commerce student we should know the difference in allocation and apportionment. If you can identify a particular expense with a particular unit, maybe you can identify that this particular expense is identifiable with department A, so you will allocate it to A. So this is your expense, you take it. If you can identify this with C, you give it to C. But when this direct identification is not possible, okay, then we distribute the expense. Now when you distribute the expense among these departments, this is technically called apportionment. But when you give the expense to a particular department by identifying it with that, you call it allocation. Okay, so there is a difference, although the two terms can be used invariably, but as a commerce student I think you should know the difference. So let us see the basis of allocation of expenses. So we have different types of expenses given. Let us see their examples. So what are the purchase related expenses? Carriage on purchase, discount received, isn't it? Or ordering cost you might be given. So the basis will be, since this expense is being incurred because of purchase, so purchase is going to be the base. Purchase. So you will take up the purchase of each and every department. The department A is having say purchase of 50,000, B is having purchase of say 80,000, C is having purchase of say 10,000. So the ratio will be 5:8:1. So this expense will be distributed in this ratio. All right. So next is sales related expenses. So these are salesman's commission, advertisement, bad debts, provisions for bad debts, packing expenses, after sales service, and all these. So these expenses are being incurred because of sales. So sales will be the appropriate criteria, or credit sale can be the criteria. Can you identify which expense will be divided in credit sales ratio and which will be taken in sales ratio? Can you identify something? Okay. So bad debts. Bad debts arises because of credit sales. So bad debts will be distributed in the ratio of credit sales. Then you have employee expenses. Employee expenses I have divided in two categories based on number, based on salary. Like when you have canteen charges. Now canteen charges are based on number. One person will take 1 tea, 2 tea. If a person is a manager and he is drawing 10 times salary as compared to a worker, he is not going to eat 10 times, right? So some expenses are based on number, like canteen expenses, welfare, medical benefits. So these will be distributed in the ratio of number of employees. Whereas other expenses which are based on salary, like your provident fund contribution is based on a percentage of your salary, right? Similarly, insurance is based on the employees' worth in the company. So herein we will take up the wages or salary bill of the department. Then expenses on stocks, insurance on stock, storage cost. So average stock will be the basis. Now building related expenses like rent, rates and taxes, repairs, insurance. Now can you identify the basis here? In which ratio will we be distributing this building related expense? Yes, it will be area or floor area occupied. Then you have machine related expense. This time is not here. Okay, machine related expenses are like depreciation of machines, repairs of machines, etc. So this will again be on the basis of value of these assets or the time employed, because machine is something, sometimes we have a common machines for all the departments, then we will consider the time that the machines are being used for different departments. That will be the criteria for distribution. So you will be taking a ratio of time employed. Otherwise you can take up the value of such assets. Now there are certain expenses which are not related to a particular department, but they are related to the business as a whole, like financial expenses or legal expenses, interest on loan, loss on sale of investment, etc. So we do not distribute them. We simply adjust them in the total profit. So when you are preparing a trading and P&L account for departments in the column, columnar form, then in individual columns we won't write this expense. So this won't be distributed. This will be taken in the total column only. Then you have certain expenses which we cannot identify or which cannot club in the above categories, like you have salary of work manager or manager. Now manager is devoting time to the business. So according to the time that he is devoting in each department, his salary will be apportioned. Lighting on the basis of light points or floor area. Power. Now wherein the power is used? Power is used on machines. So again horsepower being used by the machines, or the time devoted in the different departments by the machines. Then you have heating and air conditioning. Again the energy consumption can be taken. If energy consumption cannot be determined, because you may not be having separate electric meters for the departments, then area will be the basis. So what we do is, for these expenses we take up this basis of allocation and we decide a ratio, like a ratio of sales, ratio of employees number, etc. And then in that ratio the expenses are distributed. Once the expenses are distributed, then the preparation of a trading and P&L account is not a big task. You know the format of this and you can easily fill in the information. Let us understand this with one example. Now there are two departments, X and Y, prepare departmental trading P&L account for this year. Opening stock, you see this is the information for individual departments. Purchases, sales, return, inward. Return inward is purchase return or sales return? Yes, it is sales return. Inward means the return is coming into the business. Okay. Then closing stock, salaries, direct. These are all separate expenses. Then you have collective expenses like salesman's commission, administrative expense, selling expense and all. So you are given information here also. There are 81 light points, out of which 56 are engaged in department X and rest are in Y. So how many are there in Y? Out of 81, 56, that means 25. So ratio is 56 is to 25. Floor area is 900 is to 600. So if you simplify this, this will be 3 is to 2. 9 is to 6 is 3 is to 2. You can simplify the ratios. Sometimes you can do it, sometimes it's not possible. Then you will have to take the ratio as it is. Like for light points, the ratio is 56 is to 25. We cannot simplify it further. Assets are given. Office expenses are clearly given. Distribute them in the ratio of 3 is to 2. Sundry expenses in the ratio of sales. Godown charges in the ratio of average inventory. So we are clearly given the basis for some of the expenses. For others, we will have to apply our brains and then decide. Okay, and then we will be preparing a departmental trading and P&L account. So since, see, if you prepare trading and P&L account, this information can directly be recorded. But for the collective expenses, we will have to distribute them. So one way is to make our work more presentable. What we can do is we can make a distribution table. Common expenses distribution table. Now sometimes I am using abbreviations, but normally we should not use them. I am using it just for the sake of time. I am saving time, So you have the expense. Now while distributing the expense, we need to know the total amount. Now this total amount is to be distributed among 2 departments only. But what will be the basis? And on that basis, what ratio is being arrived at? Okay, so that we need to consider. So X and Y department. Okay, so starting with number 1, that is salesman's commission. Okay, 22,500. So salesman's commission should be distributed in the ratio of, yes, consider the base. It is relating to sales only. So the ratio should be sales ratio. Now how much is the sales amount? For X department, sale is 9,49,500, but 4,500 is the return. It means 9,45,000 is the net sales. For Y department, 6,33,000 less 3,000 of returns, so 630. So if you simplify this, the ratio is 3 is to 2. Okay, so how will you distribute this? 3 is to 2 implies 3/5 for X, 2/5 for Y. I hope this distribution is known to you. So 22,500 will be given 3/5 to X. So you simplify this. 13,500 for X and 2/5 for Y will give you 9,000. Next is, this is done, administrative expense 9,000. So administrative expenses are normally not relating to a particular base. This is for administration of business as a whole. So if nothing is given, we can directly take them in the total column. Otherwise, do as your question says. It says it is to be distributed. Office expenses, office and administration are one and the same thing. So ratio is 3 is to 2. So it is, the base is given 3 is to 2. So 9,000 into 3/5 for X and 2/5 for Y. So that gives you 5,400 and 3,600. You can simplify this, right? You can solve it. Next is selling expenses 12,000. Selling expenses amount is 12,000. So selling expenses should be based on sales. That is very clear. You can directly relate these with the sales. So 12,000 in the ratio of 3 is to 2. That means 3/5 for X and 2/5 for Y. So 7,200 and 4,800. Then you have depreciation. Okay. Now depreciation will be distributed in the ratio of assets value. Depreciation is employed on the assets. So the assets value is 4,50,000 and 3,60,000. It is given. Okay, so you have the ratio 5:4, that means 5 by 9, 4 by 9. So 27,000 into 5 by 9, 15,000 for X and 12,000 for Y. Next is electricity. Electricity charges 16,200. So it should be based on light points. Light points are given 56 for X, then how many for Y? If you have total 81, so for Y it will be 25. Out of 81, 56 are for X, 25 are for Y. So ratio is 56 is to 25. So this ratio cannot be simplified any further. So we can say ratio is 56 is to 25. 56 is to 25 upon 81, and the amount is 16,200. So thankfully our calculation is easy. So 11,200 for X and 5,000 for Y. Next is staff expenses, staff welfare. It is 30,000. So this will be based on number of employees, isn't it? Number of employees are how many? You can check. Just see, are you given number of employees? Yes, 600 workers in X and 400 in Y. So 600 is to 400, ratio is 3 is to 2. So in 3 is to 2 ratio, this will be distributed. That means 3/5 of 30,000. 18,000 for X, 12,000 for Y. Okay, next is we have taken this rent 45,000. So rent is taken for building. So floor area will be the suitable choice for rent. So floor area, it is 900 and 600. So the ratio of 900 and 600 is 3 is to 2. So you can distribute it. Next is sundry expenses. Again, sundry expenses is something, if nothing is given, we can take this in total. Amount is 15,000, but we are given sundry expenses in the ratio of sales. Sales are 3 is to 2 ratio. So just distribute it, 9,000, 6,000. Lastly, we have go down rent. So go down charges 54,000. So the ratio is, go down is there for inventories. So average stock will be the basis. Now opening stock of X is 30, closing stock is 45. So average stock 30 plus 45 is 75,000 by 2, isn't it? Average is opening stock plus closing stock by 2. So for department X it is 37,500. For Y department it is 10,500 and 27,000. So 18,750. So the ratio of average inventory is 2 is to 1. So average inventory ratio 2 is to 1. So it will be distributed in this ratio. So 36,000 and 18,000. So this is how we have distributed. So I hope this distribution is clear to you. So let us erase this so that we can make the final accounts. Okay. So just consider again, wherever you are to calculate the expenses of individual departments, you are to distribute common expenses among the departments on some suitable basis, and that basis gives us a ratio, and we use that ratio to distribute the expense. So when we say a basis is there, say floor area or time utilized, it simply implies that you can use that to calculate the ratio of distribution, because if something is to be distributed, we need a ratio to do the same. Okay, so we have distributed all the expenses. Now meanwhile I am doing this, you can proceed with the trading and P&L account. Now you are to prepare trading and P&L account for the department, each of the departments. One way is to do it individually, but better is that you prepare trading and P&L account in columnar form. So in the books of the main business, that is ABC Limited, books of ABC Limited, we are to prepare trading and profit and loss account for the year 20 ending on 31st March 2020. Now you see, we can make a columnar trading and P&L account. So we shall be making 3 columns here. 2 columns for each of the 2 departments, and the third one is for the totals. Now please excuse me for these kind of lines. So I am not using scale here. Particulars, department X, Y and total. Particulars, department X, department Y and total. Now you all know the components of trading account: opening stock, purchases, direct expenses. On the other side you have sales, net of returns and closing stock. So just feed in the information. Opening stock is given 30,000, 10,500, it is here. Purchases are given 3,45,000, 2,85,000. You can write up the totals. Direct expenses, okay. Next is sales. Sales and returns are also given, so we will record net sales 9,45,000, 6,30,000. Total can be written. Closing stock is also mentioned, 45,000, 27,000. Okay, then you have salaries. Now when we are recording everything, then we should record salaries in the second part. Otherwise what will happen, that when we are preparing profit and loss account, we might miss out on this, because we will be having this complete list. So we may miss this little piece of information given here. So record salaries and direct expenses in the trading account. Now all the components are done with, so just total up the 2 sides and find out the gross profit. Like for X department I am explaining, total of credit side is 9,90,000, total of debit side is 4,95,000. Okay, so your difference is 4,95,000, the amount of gross profit. Likewise for the next department, that is department Y also, you can make the calculations, and it is 2,67,000. You can write the totals here. 657 and 990. Likewise, total column can also be done this way. Now gross profit is now carried forward to the P&L account, so recording it here. Now record all the expenses. So salaries was given, it was a identifiable expenditure, so it was given separately. Now record all other expenses, like starting with salesman's commission, 13,500, 9,000, total can be recorded. Then you have administrative expense, 5,400, 3,600. Then next is selling expenses, 7,200, 4,800. Then you have depreciation, 15,000, 12,000. Electrical charges, 11,200, 5,000. Then staff welfare expenses, 27,000, 18,000. Next is rent. Okay, it was rent, and staff welfare expenses were 18 and 12. Then you have sundry expenses and go down rent. So 9,000, 6,000 sundry expenses, go down rent 36,000, 18,000. Now you all know how to calculate net profit. So just total of the two sides. Now the total of the debit side is coming out to be 2 lakh 2,300 and credit total is, we know, 4,95,000. So the difference of the two will be 2,92,700. So your net profit of department A is 2,92,700. Likewise for B department, the total is credit side is 2,67,000 and debit total is coming out to be 1,25,900. So you have got a profit of 1,41,100 and you can total up the amount here also. So this is how we prepare trading and profit and loss account in columnar form for the individual departments, right? So I hope this preparation of departmental accounts is clear to you. What we are going to do is we are to take up the same format as we know. The only thing is that the expenses which are common among the departments, we have to distribute them on some suitable basis. And to know the basis, we don't need to learn all the tables and all. What we need to understand is understand the nature of the expense. That nature itself is the clue to the basis of distribution of the expense. And if some expenses they are like financial or legal charges or something like that, for which we do not find any suitable base, then these are written here in the total column. So you won't write them here in the individual columns, but the total amount will be written here and then the net profit will be adjusted for the business as a whole. Now I am leaving you with one more question. Now this is a question wherein the P&L account has already been drafted. Given is the P&L account of this organization and then you are given some information regarding the expenses and all, and you are to calculate departmental profit and loss account. So you are to prepare departmental trading and P&L account to find out their individual profits. Total profit is now known. Okay, so we'll discuss it in the next video, and if you happen to solve it correctly, then it implies that you have understood the basics of departmental accounting, and the basic is distribution of expenses. So that is it for the day. Thank you.